I remember the nights when I wore a smile so wide. The world could never guess what storm was raging in my heart. I was the one people came to for hope, for comfort, for healing. I carried their burdens like they were my own, and I gave them strength as if I had an endless supply. But behind closed doors, I was breaking. I was the secret doctor who prescribed medicine to every soul, but never took a dose for myself. I was the torch that lit up dark roads, but my own path stayed shadowed. Every word of encouragement I gave to others was the same word I was secretly starving to hear. There were days when I felt invisible in my own pain. I laughed while I was bleeding. I cheered for victories I never tasted. I stitched broken hearts while mine was torn in silence. And yet, I do not regret it. Because in healing others, I discovered a deeper truth. Even in my brokenness, I was capable of creating light. Even in my bleeding, I was proof that love is strongest when it is given without condition. But here is what I finally learned. Healing everyone while bleeding inside is not strength. It is survival. Real strength is when you dare to heal yourself too. You cannot pour from an empty cup forever. You cannot ignore your own soul and expect to stay whole. So if you are the one who always saves everyone else, stop hiding your scars. Stop pretending your bleeding doesn't matter. Because the greatest miracle is not just healing the world. The greatest miracle is when you finally turn inward, face your own wounds, and whisper, "It's my time to be healed too." They looked at me and saw strength. They saw the smile, the calm tone, the way I always seemed to have the right words, the right answers, the right kind of comfort. To them, I was unshakable, untouchable. A mountain that could not crumble. What they did not see was the war behind my eyes. What they did not hear was the silence that screamed when I was alone. People clapped for my courage, admired my resilience, and leaned on me for support. But the truth is, my strength was often nothing more than a mask, carefully stitched together with desperation and survival. I wore it so well that even I started to believe it. I convinced myself that maybe I was stronger than the pain, stronger than the emptiness, stronger than the weight I carried. But the mask of strength is heavy. It presses down on you with every passing day, suffocating the very soul you're trying to protect. You keep telling yourself, "I'm fine. I can handle it. They need me more than I need help." And slowly, you begin to disappear behind the image you've created. The world never sees your cracks, because you become an expert at hiding them in laughter, in jokes, in endless acts of kindness. And the irony, the more you hide, the more they believe you are invincible. The more you bleed in silence, the more they come to you, believing you have it all figured out. You turn into the safe place for everyone else, but no one knows you are a storm, struggling to hold itself together. That mask becomes both your shield and your prison. You keep smiling, because the world has learned to expect it from you, and you can't bear to disappoint them. You can't bear the thought of being seen as weak, broken, or needy. So you keep carrying, keep helping, keep holding. But strength without vulnerability is a performance, not freedom. And wearing the mask too long costs you pieces of your own soul. People will say, "You're so strong. I wish I had your courage." And you'll smile, nod, and thank them, all while silently wishing someone would look closer. Wishing someone would ask, "How are you really?" Wishing that, just once, you wouldn't have to hold the world together, while your own heart quietly falls apart. And yet, even in that loneliness, there is a twisted kind of pride. You tell yourself you are doing something noble, carrying the weight so others don't have to. You tell yourself that this is what strength means, to hide your scars, so the world feels safe to show theirs. But deep inside, you wonder if the mask ever slipped, if they ever saw the bleeding underneath, would they still believe in me? Or would they finally realize that the strongest people are often the ones most desperate to be held? There is a strange kind of silence that comes from carrying pain alone, while giving everything to heal the pain of others. You become the person everyone leans on, the one they call when their heart is heavy, the one they run to when life shatters in their hands. And you show up, always. You listen to their tears, you absorb their fears. You hold their stories like fragile glass. You give them your time, your energy, your love, and piece by piece, you hand over the little strength you have left. You patch up their wounds, you stitch their broken places. You breathe life into them when they are gasping for hope. But when it comes to your own wounds, you pretend they don't exist. You push them deeper into the shadows, telling yourself you'll deal with them later, after everyone else is okay. Later never comes. In healing others, you become a master at neglecting yourself. It's not that you don't feel the weight. You do. It's not that the bleeding inside doesn't ache. It does. But you've trained yourself to look away from your own suffering, because theirs always feels more urgent, more important. And so you trade your healing for theirs, over and over again. You become the silent sacrifice, the quiet warrior whose battle is fought behind closed doors where no one can see. Outwardly, you are the healer, the comforter, the one who always knows what to say. Inwardly, you are the patient left untreated, the wound left open, the soul crying without an audience. The cost of this sacrifice is not immediate. At first, you feel a kind of pride in being needed, in being the source of strength for others. You believe this is your purpose, your role, to carry them when they cannot carry themselves. But slowly, the weight becomes unbearable. Each burden you lift adds to the mountain already pressing on your chest. Each secret you hold presses deeper into your skin. And because no one knows you're bleeding, no one thinks to ask if you're okay. They see the light you pour into them and assume you have an endless supply. They don't realize that every time you give them hope, you drain your own reserves. Every time you bandage their pain, your own wounds grow wider. There is a quiet tragedy in being everyone's healer but your own. It is the tragedy of being surrounded by people yet feeling alone. It is the tragedy of giving words of comfort that you desperately wish someone would whisper to you. And the more you neglect yourself, the more invisible you become in your own story. You are the background to everyone else's survival, the shadow that helps them find the light, but you remain in the dark, and still you keep going. You keep showing up, because you've convinced yourself that your healing can wait, that your bleeding is not as urgent. But the truth is, no soul can survive forever in silence. No heart can bleed endlessly without breaking. The sacrifice of neglecting yourself may look like strength to the world, but inside, it is a slow unraveling. There is a strange ache that lives inside. When the words you speak to lift others are the very words you crave to hear yourself. You tell someone, you are strong enough to get through this, while secretly wondering if you have the strength to face another day. You say, you are not alone, while quietly drowning in your own solitude. You remind them, you are worthy of love, while battling the haunting thought that maybe you are not. The encouragement flows so naturally from your lips, yet each sentence feels like a message you've been writing to your own soul but never mailing. It becomes a paradox. You are both the teacher and the student, both the healer and the broken one. Every piece of advice you offer is soaked in truth, but it is truth you struggle to live. You can see the beauty in others so clearly. But when you look in the mirror, you can only see the cracks. You become fluent in comforting others, yet tongue-tied when it comes to comforting yourself. And over time, you realize that you've built a language of hope for everyone else, while your own heart starves for a single word of reassurance. What makes it harder is that people believe you have it all figured out. They look at the confidence in your words and assume it reflects the condition of your heart. They don't realize that every time you tell them they are enough, you are secretly wishing someone would turn to you and say the same. They don't notice that your encouragement is both a gift and a cry, that it is both strength and confession. You encourage others not only because you believe in them, but because you are trying to convince yourself that the same could be true for you. But no one sees that. They take your words as wisdom, never suspecting they are also lifelines you wish someone would throw back at you. They lean on your voice, never realizing that behind that steady tone is a person who longs to lean too. And so the cycle continues. You give, they receive, and you are left empty, with echoes of your own words haunting you in the quiet hours of the night. There is a loneliness in that silence, in knowing that you can inspire hope in the hearts of many, but cannot seem to spark it in your own. You are both the hero and the hidden casualty. You tell people to believe in themselves, but when the world goes quiet, you wonder if belief is something you lost long ago. And yet, you keep speaking, because you know your words matter to them, even if they don't heal you. You keep pouring encouragement, because that is what you've been shaped to do. Still, deep down, you ache for the day when someone else will speak those same words back into your life. And for once, you won't have to be both the encourager and the one who needs encouragement. Even in the depths of brokenness, there is a light that refuses to be extinguished. It may flicker, it may tremble, but it is there. And somehow, when you are shattered, when every part of you feels fragile and unsteady, that is when the light within you shines in the most honest way. It is not polished. It is not perfect, it is raw. And perhaps that is why it reaches people so deeply. Because in your brokenness, there is no performance, only truth. People can feel it when your love is born not from ease but from struggle, not from abundance but from sacrifice. They sense that what you are giving costs you something, and that makes it all the more powerful. To love when you are whole is beautiful, but to love when you are wounded is sacred. It is to look at another person's pain and say, I know what it feels like to hurt, and I will not let you carry this alone. It is to stand in the ruins of your own soul and still reach out your hand to lift someone else from theirs. It is to bleed quietly, yet continue to pour compassion, because you know what it is like to crave compassion and find none. That kind of love is not shallow. It is carved out of scars. It is love that has been tested by fire, and instead of turning bitter, it chooses to become softer. There is a strange strength that grows from being broken. You begin to notice the details others miss. The quiet sigh, the forced smile, the eyes that hide more than they reveal. You learn to listen not just to words, but to the silences between them. You understand pain not as an idea, but as a language you are fluent in. And that makes your love more than sympathy. It makes it empathy. When you say, I understand, people believe you, because your voice carries the weight of truth. The beauty of it is that your brokenness does not cancel your ability to love. It amplifies it. It strips away the shallow, the transactional, the surface level care, and it leaves behind a love that is real, selfless, and pure. A love that says, even if I have nothing left, I will give you what I can. And maybe that is why people are drawn to you. Why they trust you with their wounds. Because they know you do not love them from a pedestal of perfection. You love them from the ground. From the dirt, from the rawness of life itself. It is easy to think that brokenness makes you weaker. But in truth, it creates a depth of love that cannot be manufactured in comfort. You shine, not because you are untouched by pain, but because you refuse to let pain make you cold. And that warmth, that fragile yet fierce love, is proof that even in your darkest hours, you can still be the light someone else needs to see. There comes a moment when you realize that surviving for the sake of others is no longer enough. You have spent so much of your life pretending that endless giving is the definition of strength. You convinced yourself that if you kept pouring out, if you kept holding others together, that made you unbreakable. But slowly, you begin to see the cracks spreading across your soul. You notice how the weight you carry has begun to change you. Not because you are weak, but because no human heart is meant to live in constant sacrifice without rest, without care, without renewal. True strength does not come from pretending you are invincible. True strength comes from facing your own wounds without shame. It takes courage to turn inward. It takes bravery to admit that you are tired, that you are hurting, that you are in need of healing too. For so long, you've told yourself that admitting these things would make you less, that it would ruin the image others hold of you. But the moment you strip away the mask, the moment you whisper to yourself, I need to heal, is the moment you find a power deeper than anything you've ever given away. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is choosing to face the struggle and tend to it with love. Healing yourself does not mean you stop helping others. It does not mean you close your heart or turn your back. It simply means you finally understand that you cannot keep offering water from an empty well. You cannot keep pretending your cup is full while ignoring the cracks that are draining you dry. When you decide to heal yourself, you are not being selfish. You are being wise. You are building the foundation that will allow you to keep loving, but without losing yourself in the process. And healing is not instant. It is not neat or tidy. It is messy, vulnerable, and often painful. But in choosing it, you step into a kind of strength that survival alone can never give you. Survival is about holding your breath, about clenching your fists, about bracing for impact. Healing is about exhaling, opening your hands, and daring to let light into the places you've hidden. Survival keeps you alive, healing allows you to live. That is the difference. And that is the miracle. The truth is, the bravest thing you will ever do is give yourself permission to be human. To allow yourself to be cared for. To allow yourself to rest. To allow yourself to admit that you are not unbreakable. Real strength is not proving you can bleed forever without collapsing. Real strength is daring to say, I matter too. And once you embrace that, you begin to discover that the love you have been so freely giving to others is also the love that has been waiting, all along, to be given back to you. There comes a time when hiding is no longer possible. You can only cover your wounds for so long before they start to ache louder than your silence. For years, you convinced yourself that your pain was small compared to the struggles of others, that your bleeding could be tucked away behind a strong smile, that your heart could be ignored if it meant everyone else felt safe. But the truth is, ignoring your wounds does not heal them. It only makes them deeper. The greatest transformation begins the moment you stop pretending you are unhurt. It begins when you look at yourself honestly and admit, I am in pain, and I deserve healing too. There is an incredible power in giving yourself permission to be seen in your brokenness. It does not make you weak, it makes you human. The act of honoring your scars, instead of hiding them, becomes the first step toward real freedom. Because every scar tells a story, and every wound that you dare to face becomes an opening for light to enter. The love you have been so tirelessly giving to others is not meant to bypass you. It was never meant to drain you dry. It was meant to flow both ways, outward and inward. And the moment you finally direct some of that love back to yourself, you realize how long you've been starving for it. For too long, you have believed that your worth came from how much you could give away. But healing teaches you a different truth. That your worth exists even when you are resting, even when you are receiving, even when you are simply being. You don't need to prove your value through constant sacrifice. You are valuable because you are here, because you are alive, because your soul is worthy of the same care you so freely offer. The miracle of turning inward is not just that your wounds begin to close. It is that you begin to see yourself through gentler eyes. You stop treating yourself as the exception, the one person unworthy of compassion. You begin to understand that self-love is not selfish, it is survival. It is not indulgence, it is restoration. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. And slowly, the bleeding quiets. Slowly, the weight you carried for so long begins to lift. And what's beautiful is that when you finally allow yourself to heal, your love for others does not shrink, it grows. It becomes richer, deeper, steadier. No longer poured from emptiness, it flows from overflow. You can show up for others not from a place of exhaustion but from wholeness. And the world feels the difference. The greatest miracle, then, is not that you once healed everyone while you were bleeding inside. The greatest miracle is that you chose to stop hiding, to honor your wounds, to whisper to yourself the words you've always given away so freely. I matter. I am worthy. I deserve healing too. So yes, I healed everyone while I was bleeding inside. I carried others through storms I was still drowning in myself. I became the voice of hope I desperately needed to hear. I poured love into empty spaces while mine remained hollow. But in that journey, I discovered a truth that changed everything. Strength is not about endless sacrifice. It is about courage to face your own wounds. Love is not only about giving to others. It is also about learning to give it back to yourself. If you are listening to this today, and you are the one who always shows up, always carries, always heals, please remember this. You deserve the same care, the same tenderness, the same light that you so freely give to others. Your healing matters. Your soul matters. You matter. Do not wait for the world to give you permission to rest, to breathe, to heal. Give yourself that permission. Because the greatest miracle is not found in hiding your pain, not in bleeding silently while lifting others. The greatest miracle is when you finally whisper to yourself, "It's my time too." And when you choose to rise, whole and healed, the love you carry will not only continue, it will overflow. Thank you for walking through this story with me. Thank you for allowing my words to touch your heart. And thank you for reminding me, by simply being here, that none of us are ever truly alone in this journey. Take care of yourself. Be gentle with your soul. And always remember, healing is not weakness, it is the greatest strength you will ever know. Goodbye, and thank you.